We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be. And of course, however you may be listening. Well, we had some interesting news take place today. Sorry about the phone there. Probably expected news. And, overall, I've seen very interesting comments from the Iowa faithful, some that I agree with, some that I do not. But nonetheless, I would rather see most of them, if not all of them, than to not see them at all. So we'll be getting into that. Mainly this video, we're going to be taking a look at Iowa's expected 2023 recruiting class and my thoughts on it. And kind of where this class shapes up and where they are lacking, what they are missing, and perhaps how they can take care of that in the portal. But before we get into any of that, like, comment, share, you know the drill. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. It takes 1.25 seconds. Help a brother out. Without further ado, let's get into this. Well, the big news of the day, Caden Proctor decommits from the Iowa Hawkeyes and flips his commitment to Alabama. Now, I have a few thoughts on it. I probably could denote a full video just to this, as it's not even necessarily all these thoughts are not literally every single one have to do with Caden Proctor. Some of them are related. Some of them do have a direct link to Caden Proctor. Okay. Let's start here. I think, and I put this on Facebook, it is a testament to where Iowa is as a program that they, and I have some other data to point this out as well, that they were able to land a 5-star guy last year and nearly came this close to landing a 5-star guy in back-to-back recruiting classes. I think that says a lot about Iowa. Now, you could say, well, Nolan, they're both in-state guys, and so it's not as great as if Iowa went and landed, 2 out of state 5-star guys. And yeah, you may be true. You may be correct about that. But nonetheless, the reality of the situation is if Iowa sucked, if their program and their university as a whole was not up to snuff, Xavier Wampa nor Caden Proctor would have even considered the Iowa Hawkeyes. Okay. And so I do think that it's a testament to where this program is, and that they do have a lot of selling points, especially at certain positions, offensive line, the defensive backfield, things like that. So that's number one. I think it is a testament to Iowa and where they are at as a program, that they have been able to compete for very highly for 2 5-star guys. Now, moving it forward, I also think that Iowa was its own worst enemy in losing Caden Proctor. In the end, Kirk Ferentz said that their program would not be dictated or determined based off of one guy's commitment or non-commitment. And overall, I agree with that. But 5-star guys seldom come out of your state in general, aka the state of Iowa. And 2, I would say by and large, Iowa is not up in the running for 5-star guys like they were with Proctor and Wampa. So it's a unique circumstance, is what I'm saying. By and large, I would agree with that. Iowa and their program is not going to hinge on the decision or lack thereof of one guy in their direction, or even 2 guys for that matter. I would generally agree with that. But with that being said, I think that Iowa got in their own way. You look back at last year when Iowa landed Wampa. They played in the Big Ten championship game. They won 10 games. At one point in the season, they were ranked. What were they ranked? I can't remember. They may have been ranked number 1 in the country at one point. No, I think it was number 2 in the country. They got as high as number 2 in the country last year. Okay. The momentum was excellent. It was superb, and the defense was phenomenal. So the selling point for Wampa was not that difficult. It was easy to go, hey, you come here, you're going to be playing for the in-state team. You're going to be competing for a Big Ten championship game. We're playing, certainly for the Big Ten West crown. Hell, if you come here, we may even compete for the college football playoff. We're knocking on its door right now this season. Okay. Not to mention the defensive pedigree that Phil Parker has been able to display, especially with the defensive backfield. And you look at Phil Parker specifically, and you can easily imagine a situation where he goes, you see what I did with this guy, 2-star, this guy, 3-star, this guy who I found, in some, I found by some luck, Kayvon Merriweather, somebody told me about his basketball skills, and I looked at him and I was like, you know what, get him out here. I'm sure I can make him into a hell of a DB. Obviously, that's probably not how it happened. But if you don't think Phil Parker looks at guys, especially when it comes to the defensive back group, and looks at their athleticism and goes, I wonder, and thinks to himself, I'm sure I could make him into a hell of a DB. I'm sure he does that. So the point is, there was a lot to sell. There was a lot of positive momentum with the Iowa Hawkeyes. NIL, Iowa came out with a really solid NIL package. They were together. They were focused. They had a vision. Okay. They had a plan. Unlike most places who had zero plan at all and were basically just waiting to see if somebody would get the ball running. I mean, Iowa has better NIL, according to Cade McNamara, than Michigan does, than the Wolverines do. Now, you fast forward to this year, and why I'm saying that Iowa was its own worst enemy. It's simple. The offense sucked. It was terrible. The offensive line was not good either. It just wasn't. And Iowa failed to even win the Big Ten West in one of its most winnable years. One of its most winnable years. And even more than that, there really wasn't, and there still isn't, a ton of evidence that Iowa is going to change anything on offense. It looks like it's going to be the same old, at least right now. Now, who knows? Behind closed doors, perhaps the coaches have a plan. Kirk Ferentz perhaps has a plan, and perhaps they relayed that to Caden Proctor. I don't know. But they were their own worst enemy. And to be really brutally frank, it was looking like Proctor was not totally sold on Iowa at, I would say, probably about halfway through the season, because they were not playing as well as they should. And here's a perfect, for me, somebody who does not live in the state of Iowa, this is the perfect encapsulation of what I'm talking about. When you compare Alabama and Iowa, okay, Iowa is certainly a good program. But if you think, regardless of the rivalry or not, if you think that Alabama would ever come close to losing to Iowa State, you're kidding yourselves, even if they were rivals. And so you put Iowa, who can't even beat a below 500 Iowa State team at home, and you look at Alabama and just see what they're churning out, and the games that they win, and that they're constantly in position for the SEC title, the college football play, all these things. And they're just not on the same level. It's not to say Iowa's bad. It's more of a sentiment of how good Alabama is. So Iowa, I know people are going to say in the comments that that's a false equivocation, but really all I'm saying is that you look at Iowa, and if you put yourself in a 5-star shoes and go and you examine Iowa and you examine Alabama, and you look at Iowa and you go, damn, dude, they don't even beat Iowa State and all the other things I listed. Okay, now did he actually do that? Who knows? I don't know. A couple more thoughts on it. I've seen some people responding, who cares? It doesn't. No, it does matter. Okay. It certainly matters. He was a 5-star offensive lineman. It matters. Okay. And had he stayed at Iowa, you certainly would have cared. Okay. That's just a fact. It sucks the way that it went down. It really, really does. It sucks that it happened in the 11th hour rather than happening way back when. I almost would have rather it happen way back when than have it happen now. Myself, I would have rather him not committed to Iowa at all and had it shake out the way it shook out now. And, whatever your theory is on why this happened and why it didn't happen, I would say more of it has to do with what Alabama is and what Iowa is not right now than anything. And what Iowa was not able to crystallize to Caden Proctor. There's one more thing that I want to say, and I was actually debating whether I would say this, but I always find it hilarious when people say, dude, let him do him. Let him do what's best for him. And it's like, hold on a second. You do realize that a lot of these top tier athletes have family members, have, uncles, aunts, whatever they get, friends who are hanging on them at every turn, totally impacting their decisions. So it's not always as clear and straightforward as, well, just let him do what's best for him. Obviously, it's his choice. I get that. But what I'm saying is it's not cut and dry, that it is just him making the best decision for him possible. I don't think it's that. I think actually rarely is that the case. Rarely are kids actually making a decision purely for them. So I don't want to spend too much more time on Caden Proctor because, what's done is done. I really do wish him the best. If I had to bet between how it shakes out for Wampa and how it shakes out for Proctor, I put my money on Phil Parker leading Wampa to the promised lands. But obviously, in the end, still wish him the best. It like I said, it is what it is. And Iowa fans are hurt. They are. There's no going around it. And it's understandable. It is. I see all these people just totally coping, saying, oh, who cares? And having all these massive copes. And it's like, what's wrong with just, you're an Iowa fan. Of course you care. This guy was a legit guy. Now, moving it forward again, I could spend a full video on this, but Iowa's class is still very solid, in my opinion. Had Proctor stayed committed to the Iowa Hawkeyes, I think they would have likely finished with a top 25 recruiting class. Now, I think they'll be lucky to finish top 35. And if they can finish top 35, it actually would be a hell of an achievement, considering they lost their top guy in the 11th hour. I think that they hit some very necessary positions, considering that Iowa was 7-5 this year and they didn't have a ton of momentum when it came to the win column. This was a totally average football season. The offense was terrible. Considering all those things, this is actually a pretty solid recruiting class. I've always said, in my opinion, generally speaking, I think Iowa should always finish top 35 with their recruiting classes. They have two solid transfer portal pieces in Eric All and Cade McNamara. Their offensive line class is still solid. Trevor Locke is good. Leighton Jones is good. They're the highest rated guys on this Iowa recruiting class. But they just don't have their headliner in Caden Proctor. I actually think Iowa did a hell of a job addressing their wide receiver issues, considering how god awful they were on the offensive side of the football. Alex Mata is a high 3-star, 4-star wide receiver by some places. They were able to go to one of the best high schools in Florida and land a guy who has some pretty solid offers in Jarriett Bowie, I believe it's Bowie. And then they found a massive diamond in the rough with Dayton Howard. So I actually think they addressed wide receiver pretty well. And I think there's one more guy that is still on the board in former Hawkeye Leroy Smith's son, who is a high 3-star wide receiver. He's 6'5". He's a wide receiver / tight end. Defense, DBs, I think Phil Parker did okay. He didn't really address the cornerback position per se, but he did go and get some solid hybrid DBs. Not pure outside corners, but DBs. Khalil Tate is a safety. He's a high 3-star. John Nestor, high 3-star. Iowa landed in the last second Tegan Davis, which a lot of people are saying he's a diamond in the rough. Running back, I'm very pleased with the running back position. Iowa had a high 3-star running back commit who ended up decommitting in Kendrick Raphael, but they ended up getting a guy who was committed to Purdue out of the state of Texas, high 3-star guy, Terrell Washington Jr., who has a nice offer sheet. And early in the process, they got Kamari Moulton out of the state of Florida. I like that they got two not upper echelon running backs, but two solid guys that they think that they could develop into what they are looking for. Defensive line group is really solid. If I had to say what the best position group is on this recruiting class, I would say it's either the defensive line or the offensive line group. I think the linebacking group is not bad either. Iowa, for a second, looked like they were in excellent shape to land. Trying to pull him up here. Mosiah Newsom's brother. It doesn't look like that's going to happen, unfortunately. It looks like Iowa has fallen off for his services of late. It's so weird. This is why overall you cannot be that concerned with recruiting. Matter of fact, he committed to Kansas State because, like Asa Newman, usually I would say follow the visits. Asa Newsom visited Iowa like 12 times. But then at the end, just totally falls off and he ends up going to Kansas State. So, what are you going to do? So that's not going to happen. The two linebackers that Iowa has, I think they have a stud just athlete in general in Ben Cooter, who was one of the first commits to choose the Hawks. Aiden Hall, I don't know if he is going to end up playing linebacker or not, or maybe he seems like a guy who's either going to be a linebacker or a cash guy. That's where he seems like he's going to line up. And that's pretty much it. I mean, Iowa still has a couple of months to find some guys. I would say that the guys that the position that they're looking for, I would say maybe one more wide receiver, depending on if they like the guy or not. Maybe one more tight end, but you took 2 tight ends in the class before. You have a transfer tight end in Eric All, and you actually have a pretty good high school tight end who had some great offers. I mean, this was a hell of a recruiting win for Iowa to land the services of Zach Ortworth out of the state of Missouri. I mean, a lot of these guys had some really solid offer sheets. Marco Lainez, I think, fell in the recruiting rankings, and this is just how it happens by way of committing so early. A lot of times when these guys commit so early, it's kind of just a situation where, they end up focusing on their high school season or focusing on training, and they don't get out into the public a lot. So these recruiting sites don't see them as much as they normally would if they were still being heavily recruited. But Marco Lainez at the beginning of the process was a 4-star, high 3-star guy. I mean, he's just a solid 3-star guy, but I like Marco Lainez a lot. I think he is a solid get for the Iowa Hawkeyes. JJ Cole ended up looking like a really, good target out of the state of Iowa, but did Iowa ever really have a chance to land him over Iowa State? Maybe, probably not. So they could take a wide receiver, maybe tight end, although unlikely. Maybe a cornerback if there's a cornerback that Phil Parker likes. Maybe a linebacker if there's a linebacker that they find that they like. Maybe an offensive tackle, although I think they're going to look at the transfer portal for that. I think they're definitely going to continue to work in the transfer portal at the wide receiver position. In a perfect world, Iowa would land one more high school wide receiver and one transfer portal wide receiver. Although if they don't land any high school guys, I would say they need to land 2 portal guys. So they're not going to take another quarterback. They're not going to take any more running backs. They are pretty much set. If they take anybody, like I said, it's going to be a corner, might be a linebacker, might be a definitely wide receiver. And that's pretty much it. This class already has 21 guys. 21 guys. My final thoughts on the class are this. Does this class have a headliner? No, it doesn't. It doesn't have that headliner that Iowa, that some of the previous classes have been able to land. You look at 2022, Xavier Wanpa, Aaron Graves, very, very, very highly rated guys. Now, actually, Iowa's rank is actually higher than this class, but that class only had 17 commits. It was a very low class. 2021, they had David Koff, Connor Colby. I mean, 2021 had like 8 4-star guys. So this class doesn't really have, like I said, it doesn't have a headliner per se. But overall, I would say that the guys that they do have really solid offer sheets. Iowa beat out some really good teams to get. And I think Iowa is going to finish with the best Big Ten West team. Now, recruiting group. Now, is that the biggest deal in the world? Depends on who you ask. I mean, the divisions are going away. So, probably not. It's probably not the biggest thing in the world. But overall, I think Iowa landed some really solid guys that they had to beat out some solid Power 5 schools to get. All right, guys, let me know what you guys think. Again, totally a bummer that Iowa loses Caden Proctor, especially this late in the process. It is. I may do another video on Iowa's class going into next year. But I just thought I would go ahead and take care of this and do this one early, and get it done for you. A lot to like, some good talent coming in. I would say that this is a very bittersweet situation with the talent coming in. Overall, I think that Iowa, their issue is not even necessarily recruiting because they develop guys really, really well. And they are able to bring in tons of walk-ons that they end up developing as well. I mean, it's Iowa takes the holistic approach. I mean, they make sure that they can get any advantage that they can anywhere they can get it. Their issue is offense. And regardless of Caden Proctor or not Caden Proctor, if they don't fix that, we're not going to see much of a difference. All right, guys, be sure to like, comment, share, definitely subscribe. You know the drill. Takes 1.25 seconds. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow. In fact, our feelings because your feelings just don't matter. Love you guys. See you guys next time. Go Hawks. Bye-bye.